little book club where we talk about books, especially the ones that give us book hangovers. I'm Sarah, with me and Megan.
Hey!
And today we are talking about Unbroken Bonds by Jay Bree, the final book in the Bonds That Tie series.
Yay, yes. Since our first episode that we've been following this series, so it's exciting. It's an exciting day.
Yep. This will be our 7th episode about the series because we did one with the cover artist.
Yes.
Yeah, Emily.
Love the cover.
So yeah.
They're so great.
Okay. It's kind of weird talking about the last book.
I know, because it's been such a journey for us. Mm-hmm. You know, again, our first episode was Broken Bonds. So wow.
Yeah. It's been a year of every other month?
Like 3 months. I feel like it's been like every 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are we going to do next?
Where do we go? I think a lot of books leave you that way. Like, where do we go from here? Mm-hmm. Like when you're so invested, because, you know, Bonds is a big reread for me. Mm-hmm. I was very invested in it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It kind of gives you that book hangover when you finish a series, because you go, okay, where do I go? What do I do next? Yeah.
It's the end. Yeah, especially when it's a longer series. Mm-hmm. Like when you're, you have it scattered through a whole year, over a year. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Well, this book, we see a lot from the Bonds. We get to know a lot about, we finally get it revealed. The gods. Did I say the Bonds? Well, the Bonds are the gods. See, that's the thing. Their Bonds are the gods.
You're right.
Before release, there was a promo that named all the god names. Mm-hmm. So that was like a fun thing to kind of entertain. Like, what does this mean? Mm-hmm. They were kind of hinted at through Knox's research before. So it was easy to guess the cleaver is Atlas and the dragon. Some of them were easier to guess.
Yeah,
I did a little Googling.
I did not, and I feel like Knox's and Norse, I can't remember the names, but I feel like they could have been switched. But then the more I read, I was like, they actually do fit each other.
They do, yeah. When I Googled, one of them was I think it said something about, I can't remember. I think one of them said something about North, it being the North Star or something constellation. So I'm like, oh, this has to be North.
Okay.
And then one meant a raven or something, and I was like, wait, because I thought Oli was the one that she was, and then I was like, but this is talking about a raven or a crow, and I'm like, that's on a book, and I'm like, oh, so that was intentionally probably put on the book cover. So I was just trying to line them up there.
I wonder if Jay Bree had that from the start figured out, since those two if it correlates on the book.
Especially with the second book cover and the space, I feel like within the constellations, the Bonds, the gods were constellations. I feel like maybe she had some kind of idea that it's going to be related, and that was what those covers were maybe hinting at.
Because that was weird. I have to admit, everybody, that as much as I love the covers, some of the items on the covers, I was like, where is this coming from? So it was this big mystery. So now that we finally get that, and now that we know to Google it all and find the constellations, then it makes sense now. Okay, so we're gonna do that. I'm gonna be doing that.
Yes. So I did a deep dive into the Google of the constellations and the gods, and so you can relate it with the cover, some of the cover stuff. So
okay, cool. Yeah, that's neat. So interesting. Okay, so I feel like a lot happens in this book, obviously, because everything needs to be tied up in this series because it's the series. It's done. So I don't even know where to start.
Well,
I'm trying to think of where
So it starts with, at the beginning, it starts with, the gods. They just had the encounter with the senator lady, who's really, we discover, is a god, and Oli, is kind of knocked out, but Nox, we learn that Nox can shadow walk and open up like, and I think that this is the power he must have gotten. I was like, when did he get this? And I'm thinking it must have developed after he bonded with Oli and the soul
Mhm,
bond that he'd been working on.
mhm.
Because like if he had had it before, I feel like he could have done that with Brutus in the camp. So I think it was like after they were
Yeah,
bonded. So he like
I
uses
agree.
the shadows to get to her,
Mhm.
which I was like, oh, this is a fun moment. And kind of saves the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked
And
that he
yeah,
did that at the end. He went to, like, talk to them, and then he was able to transport too, and
yes.
they found it was faster than, like, Karen doing it
And it
even.
didn't make her
And
sick.
yeah, and I'm like,
Yeah, and
"That's
it felt
nice."
more natural. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and then Griffin, we learned when his bond he could heal. So it's like it's kind of like her bonded group ended up having everything they needed within it.
Yes.
Like after
And the
that point, they
healing
really
didn't
didn't need
surprise
outside.
me because he would do
Hmm.
that with her when she had, like, period cramps in the first book.
Yes, and the nausea, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So
it
that
like hmm
it was just like a heightened of what they already had.
yeah,
Yeah.
because that makes sense when your bond is awakened, or not your bond, your gods. Yeah, I
Your
keep calling them
God.
bonds because it's the god
I have to
bond.
be honest, you guys, I still have a hard time, and I know it's paranormal, and what's great about paranormal is that anything goes, but I still have a hard time that they're separate.
They're
The
two different.
God and the
Yeah.
vessel and the person. That so it's like it's hard, and like when you're reading the book when they would say like bond, I'm like, okay, they're talking about the person. When they said God, okay, they're talking about the inner person. Like,
Yeah.
it's was different for me, but I'm not well into the paranormal
Hmm.
fantasy world as much as some other readers. So like for me, I'm still like getting used to it, even though I've read it for six. No, because the bonds didn't really come out in the first book, or the gods. That entity didn't happen right away.
Yeah, was that the second book or the third book? I'm now,
Mhm.
and I reread the whole series before this book, and I'm like, what was it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what was revealed when we got Ollie's Bond's POV.
Yeah.
That could be something for the comments.
Yes, yes, yes.
Remind us.
Oh, yeah.
Remind us.
Remind us because I'm sure
Mhm.
someone knows right away. There's somebody
Yeah,
out there who will know.
but
We
I feel
read
like from
so
the
much, it's
beginning,
hard.
yeah, from the beginning, Ollie's Bond, everyone loved Ollie's Bond's POV. I remember from the beginning, everyone's like, "Oh, this is so,
Yeah.
and interesting and kind of primal."
Mhm,
So it's interesting to see her bond get all of her, well, her bond. It was called her bond,
mhm.
but now it's called in this book it's the God bond.
Yes.
Get all her gods and have like the complete set. They're all awoken,
Yeah.
and then we get the POVs from all the gods, which
Mhm,
is interesting to
mhm.
get.
I liked that.
Yeah, like Griffin's POV from his God bond,
Mhm,
and then Knox too. And Griffin in this book, like his father dies, and he has to kind of like come to terms with that, even though like he was like
mhm,
threatening
mhm,
them, and like his mom's in jail. Like
mhm.
so much happens. That's the thing. So much happens.
So much happens, and I just don't know if we're gonna be able to cover it all, but it's
Yeah. Like the bond group is revealed that, like his father's bond group wasn't
yeah,
um
yeah,
yeah,
that was like a lot of bond groups aren't
yeah.
actually, like
It
you might be
seemed like
attracted
most
to
of
that
them.
person, it might be, someone that you feel
Yeah.
for, but they aren't actual bonds because the resistance was messing around with everything and the
Mhm.
gods were kind of controlling it, the other gods, which was like
And we learned that there were more than just the senator as an
mhm,
enemy, that there was a bunch of
yeah,
gods that
yeah,
they had that were coming after them. They would like recycle.
mhm,
So they had like live different lives, but they were never together at the same time. So this was their time because they
mhm,
were living together at the same time, and they had the right vessels. Like previously they had killed their vessels. So evidently this was like the right vessel time
yeah,
combination, and they kind of went hunting because they were those like the most powerful they could be. So a lot of the book was them hunting
mhm.
the gods. They capture one who takes out one of my favorite characters.
I know.
Very
I
sad.
hated that so much because we love Vivian so much. We
One
love
of our
Vivian.
first clips is about "We Love Vivian." It's one of
I
the
should
first
repost
book
that
over
clip
clips.
because
Yes,
we love Vivian and I love him so
we
much.
love
And I'm so
Vivian.
sad that that's how Vivian goes. I'm
Yeah,
so upset about that. And I wish there was somebody who could like bring him back. Just bring him
I
back. Say, nope,
know.
never mind.
Yeah, but
Fooled
he's
you.
actually a god bond, and he recycles.
Yes, yes, he
But
recycled.
he wasn't a danger to them.
Right, yeah.
He's like, and
Well,
I feel like that God bond wasn't going to be. I feel like that God bond, which I thought was interesting, it seemed like that bond just wanted to be with its bonded and wanted their help.
mhm,
And they were just like really, defensive and protective. But I was kind of like, I get, they kept it alive for information, but I was like, this one seems to want just to be
mhm,
with its bond, and it lost it, so it like does what it has to do so it can be recycled and
sure,
not
and try
forever
again.
devoured by Oli, because
Yeah,
Oli's like killing them off. She
killing
has the
them for
power to kill
good,
them.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, that's an interesting way to do it,
Mhm,
is to kind of make them like not empathetic towards that. I get it, like they've been killed by them like in horrible ways throughout
mhm,
all their lives,
mhm.
but that kinda, like, backfired on them, that they, like, left this God bond, and maybe if they would've listened, Vivian wouldn't be dead. So that's kinda
Yeah.
like life, you know?
It is life, but it's like
Yeah,
also you have to think like in a war terms, like
true.
would you listen to the prisoner that you capture
Fair.
from the enemy? You know what I mean? So
Well,
it's
didn't they come to the well, that's true, and they were talking through okay, yeah, I forgot, and it was the one that invaded Sage, which was, like,
mhm. It
a
was a
big
big thing.
thing.
So I can see
Yeah.
the reasoning for like being like, no, we're just over this, we're done. And because this God Bond group was done. I
Mhm.
mean, think of like even
Yeah.
the poor dragon, like when they explained what
Aw.
happened to him, like I
Yeah.
was like, no. And so that's what made me really happy was to see like not only like the bonds finally finding like a more of a found familyness to
Mhm.
themselves, but the gods finally, because they said like they've never all been together at the same time, they've always shown up at different times. Sometimes it was a different combination of who was there, or they would be completely alone. And so it was kind of nice to hear that like finally at this time they all have come shown up
Mhm.
together.
Mhm.
So I like
And it was interesting that the dragon didn't cycle
as
like the other
much.
ones did, and like wasn't even due to cycle back, so it was just all kind of meant to be.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
that was nice. And then it was interesting to get to kind of like two different character groups, two
Mhm,
different. I mean, because it is they're separate entities in one.
mhm.
So it was an interesting concept for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I feel like we got a lot of like growth in a way because like there was a point where like North was like letting his
Oh yeah,
shadows do more. There was a lot more. We were just finally getting everything was being
yeah,
tied up basically in this one. Obviously, it's the last book,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
feel like we got a lot of that. I liked some of the moments in the sanctuary. I really enjoyed ones where they were like, just even getting food at
yeah. Me
the
too.
cafeteria. I felt for Gabe with his indigestion after his dragon
Yes,
ate. But that
yes.
stuff was funny. I like those little like
I the
humorous
little
day-to-day
moments.
life type things thrown in there. I really
Me
needed that
too.
for this group because they've been put through the ringer from book
Yeah.
one. And so I needed to see them those moments where she's talking to Gabe
Hmm.
while fixing up the
Yeah.
school, or just those
Mhm.
little moments of
Really
like
small. Mhm.
when she buried or scattered the ashes of her parents and Knox showed up to just sit with her during it, like just things like that. It's like I
Yeah.
needed those tiny
Those were
tiny
my
little things.
favorite. Those were my favorite moments. I agree. And I could read a whole book that was just them kind of living their life,
Mhm.
slice of life. Like here's what happened after all of the wars, and I mean, and it sounded like, not to skip to the end, but it sounds like, it's not, they're not saying everything is wrapped up. There's still going to be stuff to do. There's still going to be like just like
Mhm.
resistance and whatnot, but it'd be interesting to just like see them like trying to like, okay, here's how we live life now,
Yeah,
like, here's how the bonded group is going to function. And it
yeah,
was a lot of Oli wondering, that she was wondering like to Gabe, like, what is it going to look like, how am I going to live with the
mhm,
god, how the god's going to live with us, how are we going to share time,
yeah,
like she mentioned wanting kids. So
mhm,
really be interested in like an extended epilogue or something where we
mhm.
get to see some of those like whys that she was asking Gabe. I kind of almost feel like it was set up for that, like maybe we'll get more.
Yeah, like a little novella or short story or bonus
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah, maybe I'm like, can
Maybe,
they box 6 books? You know
please.
how they do book, like, how they, like, they box all the books together and do
Yeah,
like they did with Hannaford, and then they,
yeah,
like,
the
you like
omnibus.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
sometimes they'll throw in extra content.
yes,
I'm
that
like,
would be
can
amazing
they do
because I
Yeah,
feel
I think
like
it
we
was
could
good
have
though.
used seeing
Mhm.
them because we do get those little moments, but I would have loved a longer or another epilogue with
Yeah.
their future of like Ollie finding her place more, a little bit more Sage and Sawyer's group. Just a little bit more of that day to day, and like see like how cool would it be to have like Sawyer, Sage, and Ollie's groups all have like little kids running around together or something.
That would be cute, little second yeah, it can even
Yeah,
give
like
you
a
a second
second gen.
generation.
Yeah,
Yes, I mean,
yeah.
that'd be cute, but if you're done in the world and you wanna have the world wrapped up, totally understand, that'd be cute as an epilogue,
Mhm.
like, to see them,
I
like, just
mean,
scattered about,
we
being,
all
like,
know, but
north
like,
of
can you
the
picture
thought.
like Ollie's little like toddler like petting a smoke puppy?
Oh, that'd be so
You
cute. And, like, it was
know?
funny how Gabe's like, "North's gonna wanna have they kinda Gabe teased us. He's like, "North's gonna demand to have your baby. It has to
Yeah.
be his first, no matter what.
No. I think
The Ravens are gonna fight."
who do you think deserves to have the first baby? I don't
I
Part
mean,
of me
I
thinks it
do
should be
feel
Gabe
yeah? Hmm.
because or should it
See,
be Griffin because he
he
was
was
her
chill.
first?
Maybe, yeah, because Gabe seemed pretty chill about it. Like, he was like,
Yeah.
"Eh," he was pretty chill.
But I think Atlas would be a good one. He had like such a crappy family that I think he would
Yeah.
want the chance to raise a child the right way.
And he was so day one with her and just so
Mhm.
good with her. It'd be really cute to see him as a father. It'd be cute to see them all as
I think all of them
yeah.
would be great. Yeah, I loved Atlas at the end how he changed his name. I
Oh
love
my god, that was perfect. I
that.
forgot about that. Yes, that was
I
so cute.
really
That was
liked that.
perfect.
I
And
would
I
have
like
loved
his
it if
art.
they all changed their name to hers. Like that would
You
have
know the
been
Dravens aren't
amazing.
doing that.
Yeah,
The
because
Dravens
they
are
kept
just that
been calling the
Draven name is
Draven
so
group or whatever, and I'm like,
yeah.
no, like
The
they
Draven
are,
bonding. The
they're,
Fowlers.
yeah, yeah,
That was Atlas's little like his little rebellion against the Dravens because he always had that kind of like, you know,
yeah.
rivalry with them. He'd always question them.
Mhm,
And like I think Gabe like deferred to them because he grew up with them. Griffin was like kind of under,
mhm.
although they kind of only did describe the bonds as how they were balanced out and they were well balanced, but I could see like they were just very, North's whole thing was being controlling. So
Yes.
in a good way.
In a good way. I mean,
In a
he
good
had his
way.
reasonings, and I can understand Atlas because look at where he grew up, and he grew up in
Yeah.
a very prominent family that wasn't good. And
And
so you have this
mhm.
other prominent family that's like trying to be in charge and taking care of everything. I would be
And yeah.
questioning that as well.
And especially when
Yeah.
he didn't question before and he like learned his lesson. Don't just follow
Yeah.
your family. That was literally his family. So that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. That
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense.
I
Yeah.
really liked that. Honestly, I say stuff like that, like, "Oh, I really liked Atlas," or "I really like Gabe," or Griffin, or Knox, or North, and then I just say that, and then as soon as I say one of them, I go, "Oh, but," and then I list all the other ones in my head.
They
So it's like I'll
good
comment,
boyfriend material.
yeah, like I'll
They
comment
really
on other
were.
people's stuff and be like, "Oh, I just love so and so," and I'm like, "Well, I love them all." Like
Yeah.
it really, I love them all. I just, yeah.
They were good. They were really they all five of them were good
Mhm.
characters and had interesting storylines
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Gonna miss them. Gonna miss them. I hope we get just a little more. They're so I just want more of them in their relationship because it's like I just love reading about
Mhm.
their interactions together, like with Oli, and then like as a group. It's just something about it. I got that like drug like feeling of like oh, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I feel like when you put in, we're just so invested. Us
Yeah.
readers get so invested that
Thank
it's
We do get especially if you like, the series is over a year, you're rereading it,
Mhm.
you're like,
Yeah.
analyzing it, you
Mhm.
kind of take the words in
You're
a
arguing
little bit.
over it.
Yeah.
Like how many of us have gotten in an argument with somebody over a prediction or something? Like
Right.
it's just what happens because we are invested people into this
Yeah,
group. So,
exactly.
yeah.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
they did really come, full circle.
They did. I kind of
Mm-hmm.
want to reread Broken Bonds. I feel like I really loved I loved the series, but I feel like Broken Bonds so angsty I really enjoyed their time at the university, I think. Like, I liked the sanctuary,
Yeah.
but someone had a this or that on, like, Instagram, and, like, one
Uh-huh.
of them was, like, the sanctuary or the driving university, and I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't do it, and I should do it, but I was like, driving university. I just really enjoyed I think I enjoyed the friend group there,
Yeah.
like, figuring out all the people. I loved the sanctuary too, but I really enjoyed the university. So
That
I'm happy to hear
setting.
that her and Sage went back to the university and got degrees and
Me
stuff. Like,
too.
that's nice.
Even though, and she said this, even though she had all of like Griffin, not Griffin, Knox's
Knox is,
knowledge
yeah.
for
Yeah, how awesome for her. Like
yes,
that's awesome.
because he doesn't know everything, so she could study something different, or she could just have like an easier time.
Easier
Um,
time. Go for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad that she did too. I'm glad that we got to know that they got to finish their education and all that.
Yeah. And I'm happy that Sage found
Oh
the rest of
yeah,
her bond group because we get
yeah,
introduced
Wick
to
was
Wix
introduced.
slightly in there.
Yeah,
Um,
he was introduced. I was like, "Wait, who's that?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's her other bond."
I know. I was the same. I was like, "Who is this?" And then, we
Took a
find
second.
out that
Yeah.
they found him and brought him in there. So it's,
Mhm.
and then we slightly see him find his place in that group, and we see
Yeah, and they
Sawyer's
related.
group and
Mhm.
Gray and all them like working it out. So like, I feel like everything got touched on.
Yes, and they
And
kinda related Wick's journey to Atlas's a little bit. I think
mhm, mhm.
she kinda used, like,
I
Wick
was thinking Wick
to
was gonna end
compare.
up being one of the
Like, for
evil gods. Like I thought
that
he was
would've been a
I
twist.
at one point I was like, because like they were keeping an eye on him, they weren't sure about him. I'm like, maybe like this god's really strong and is able to like make it so they can't sense him.
Oh, and that's, like, how she got into her head, like, Sage's head. Oh,
Yeah.
that would've
That's
ah!
why I wrote that. There's a note in the thing when I was like, is Wick one of them? Because I was like, that would be a twist.
Can
That would
you
be a twisty twist.
imagine? Can you
Poor
imagine,
Sage.
that was a really good theory guess, though, like, especially with,
That's what
like
we all do, right? We're
yeah,
reading this and we're
yeah.
like, what is it gonna be? What is it? And then
It's really fun, though, it's so fun to predict, and that's what we do, we love to theorize,
yeah.
so that was a good one. Like that.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Yeah, so, like, even, with Vivian passing, we got, like, closure on, like, their bond group
Mhm,
as well.
mhm,
And it was used to kind of take this is it was used to kind of propel North's whole get rid of the council
mhm.
thing and have people rally against again the ideas that were like throughout the series of how there was this corrupt council,
Yeah.
the way that there was like a caste system with like who were the top tier
Mhm,
people that they always mentioned that never fought. The top tiers just like kind of did nothing. So this kind of changed things where they like they looked up to Vivian. Vivian died for them, kind of thing. And then North trying to propel this new, they're getting rid of the council, and people kind of got onto their side about
yeah.
it after that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that wrapped up the whole inner workings of the university and the sanctuary and like all the politics that they had going
Right.
on.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I like that was the good that came out of Vivian
Yeah,
and the memorial and stuff. Like I feel like that was all like needed, like the stuff on the street and stuff. But like I like that they got more people like enrolled and
yeah,
how people really saw the mistakes that the general made by, not trusting and saying, it kind of take it to, right now of politics too, like
mhm,
really listen, really look into it. Like, are you going to just listen to this person speaking, or are you going to look
mhm.
at what they're saying and like do your research?
Yeah,
Because that's like a
we
big
do.
thing in life too. So it's
Hmm.
like I think a lot of people saw those followers of the general and then saw what happened to them and were like, ooh.
Yeah.
uh,
They're not doing well. And like Norris said in his big speech, like he's like what have any of you done so like with all your money for people?
Mhm.
And
I
he
know, right?
yeah,
Because everyone looks so down on those Dravin brothers, and it's like, look at what North's done for you. You guys are
right?
scared of him, but you're not afraid to take the
Ungrateful.
food he's giving you
Exactly. Like exactly. And that
for
I think that really
free.
it does speak to society. And like yes, they were constantly protecting them. Were they scary? Sure, but like they let like hate speech and fear get to them,
Mhm.
even though their actions didn't show that. Yes, the monsters were scary, and yes, the stuff from his past. And I like how he touched on how his father, you know, did the right thing.
Mhm.
So that was like another full circle
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
A little bit, just
Okay.
a little bit sick, just a
Okay.
little bit sick.
So, okay, let's
Ugh,
talk
I
about here are the books
yes.
because this is like the end of the series, and I was telling Megan before we recorded that I am having a book slump, and I've had one for a while. Um, but what I did at the end of this one is I went back to one of the first, if not my first RH, which is called Void by Raven Kennedy and Coral Lee June. And it is I mean, if you like the Bonds, you're gonna like this. It's a standalone, and there's very lot of parallel things that happen in it as this one. So it was a good moving on point.
Mm.
Um, and then now I'm on to more stuff.
I now, and I will recommend this to anybody because, like, I had an arc of Tate James heist, and let me tell you, this book will just suck you in, and it is the perfect hair of the book for any book because it really just it takes you on a ride, and the ending is just like what? It's
Is it
so
a
good.
standalone
It is not. It is a MF trilogy,
trilogy? Okay.
but it ends on a fun, I think a fun cliffhanger, but like it just it kind of it's a mystery. Let's just put it that way. They like to, in Tate James's group, they like to call things a mystery a lot. Um, so I'm just gonna stick with their it's a mystery. Like
Okay.
it's really good.
Good. Good.
I highly recommend it.
I'm looking forward. That comes out soon. So yeah.
It does. I believe it comes out. Well, by the time this airs, it will be out.
Yes. So there you
Yes,
go.
the paperback is live.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for following the Bonds with us and for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on the Book Over.
Bye, everybody.